Basketball.
It's time to strap in and get ready. The Insight NBA team is in the arena, bringing you the ultimate play-by-play on who's hot and who's not to help you win your leagues and dominate your mates. You're now hooping with your hosts, Matty G, Skitty, and Malley for the Insight NBA show.
G'day everyone and welcome to the Insight NBA show. I am your host at NBA Wiz, and my co-host each week for our Sell High show is the man, the myth, the legend, the mustache at live_my_fantasy, but you can also call him Matthew. How are you, mate?
Mate, and I'm glad to be talking about selling and buying. That's my favorite part of fantasy.
I would just like for one day when we do this podcast for two voices to come on that no one's heard before and be like, hey, we're the New Orleans Pelicans. Well, we're just here because the other two guys are out injured to carry the show on through. Because going through the injury list, of course, we found out just yesterday that Jose Alvarado joins their list. He's going to be out for at least a month. And he was one of the guys that we just spoke about on Monday's show. Like, this is a guy we were looking to pick up. And just like this in the NBA, fate is unkind and has sidelined that bloke.
Yeah, it's not even think it's a bit of Bayou voodoo. What's going on down there in New Orleans? There's too much witch magic going on in the swamplands or something. It's concerning.
Their out list at current is Jose Alvarado, Jordan Hawkins, Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum, Herbert Jones, and DeJounte Murray. But it was good to see Trey Murphy back up into the lineup. And as we said, those people who had him in the ESPN leagues where he was only 15% rostered coming into Monday, looked okay, a bit sluggish, but the couple blocks and the stats filling it up, mate. But one of your guys who I know that I was trying to trade for earlier this week just moved into the sell high category, I guess you could say, is Jalen Johnson almost. Not that we weren't against him, but today's triple-double performance with Trae Young out at least to the end of this week. Huge performance, the Hawks today upsetting the Boston Celtics.
It was lovely to see as a man who doesn't care much for the Celtics. Brilliant. And Dyson Daniels obviously had an absolute blinder. Those steals have been electric. I picked him up off the wire, I think, before the season started in one of my leagues, and been reaping the rewards ever since. Very happy about that. He's been fantastic.
Now, this is the Sell High show, and this is where we talk about these guys where they do fall into. Matty, your definition of a sell high, just because someone asked me last week, what do you call a sell high? And I'm like, well, I've got a bit of a different definition maybe from you, but you've got like a very traditionalist view. So when we talk about this sell high, especially if you're new to what sell high is, how do you classify it? Like, what do you like? What's your Webster's dictionary definition of sell high?
I would say it's anyone that you've soured on for whatever reason. Maybe you have a bad feeling about their future, and the production that they have currently might be the best that they're going to have at any point in the season, whether that be due to context, whether that be due to luck and awesome shooting, whether that be an increase in minutes for any reason. So it's something that I think they probably won't be able to maintain. And that if you're thinking, I want off this person, now's the time to do it.
For me, this is all capsulated by a few guys, and we're going to go through not only what that definition is for some guys, but guys tonight, we've got 8 guys who you can buy now. Also, a bit of a news injury update just for those Emmanuel Quickly fans. We got him back for all of 2 bloody games, and he's been moved back into the injured list and he's going to be reevaluated next week in Toronto, which just makes me sad. But other injury news that I thought is really important. Obviously, we've discussed already Chet Holmgren being out until at least the end of January, which is a huge blow for those guys. But Wendell Carter Jr. looks to possibly be back this week for the Orlando Magic. I know he's around on a lot of waiver wires. Look, you could just roll the dice with him at this point and see where you go as a last minute pickup, couldn't you, Malley?
Yeah, definitely. And I was watching the game today when Hardaway Jr. got smacked at every side of his head, and he was dripping blood all over the ground. So I'm guessing they put him in a wheelchair and carted him off. So I'm guessing he's going to miss a fair bit of time too. So that three-way kind of shooting, that small forward situation might have a little bit more of an opening now, and maybe that's good for the return of Isaiah Thompson if they can find some extra minutes for him, because I don't know what kind of injury he had, but when you get hit that hard in the back of your head and blood's pouring out of you, I think that you're off, at least for concussion protocols, maybe worse.
Yeah, on the injury list, and this is interesting, it just has the word head on the CBS injury updates at the end of the day when they go through all that. It just says head bad. And Isaiah Thompson has just now moved now into illness instead of the blood clotting condition as well. So that illness means that he is ramping up, and we do know that. The guy who got the obvious bump there today was Malik Beasley. He absorbed a lot of those minutes and went nuts for 21 points in Detroit in their OT win over the Miami Heat. Actually, you know what? Wasn't meant to be a segue at all, but the first guy who I've got sell high for this week, and you didn't know I'm bringing this one to the party, it is the absolutely ridiculous one, Mr. Tyler Herro. This guy is currently the 8th ranked player over the course of the last week, and he is the 16th ranked player on the year, Malley. Now, look, the points and the threes are valuable, but he is bringing a lot more than that. This bloke has been flying incredibly high. 26 points a game, 4.5 threes, 5.5 rebounds, 6 assists, not one steal in his lot, but the field goal percentage is ridiculous. 536 and 867. He's this ranked player right now in 9 cat formats. That is insane with someone not getting his steals.
Well, they got 4 of them today, which would have been after you put your stats together. But that's probably brought him up to, 0.2 overall for the season or something stupid. Wouldn't be a lot.
Something stupid, but it's definitely moved him up. And that ranking was before this game today. So this is when we were doing the research today while the games were going on. Mate, I guess we could play Is the opportunity there for him to continue to produce at this level?
Everything you said besides the last 2 words, this level. It won't be this level. But I feel like there's been a bit of a shift. Obviously, Jimmy Butler's a bit of a husk of himself, so and they're not getting a lot of offense out of Bam. They're getting diddly squat offense out of what's that point guy's name?
Terry Rozier.
This game again. Thank you very much. Terry Rozier's been looking flat as a tack. So although I don't think he's going to be able to continue with these numbers because they've been pretty outstanding, I still think he's going to be the number 1 option on this team. And if he can maintain some health, which has been his problem for the last 2 to 3 seasons, just when he starts to come good, he gets an injury and then he has to build back up again. Then he gets an injury. But someone like Jimmy Butler, I nearly said Jimmy Barnes. Jimmy Barnes might have injuries as well. Someone like Jimmy Butler, he gets injured a lot, but he comes back in and they just put him back as number 1 option, generally speaking. But before he went out with this injury, it didn't look like that was the case. So I agree that this is a sell high. I have him in a league and I'm not selling him.
No, and this is the thing is if you are looking to recoup it, so this is let's play another game. I had a guy the other day and we were talking in cats, and Kyrie Irving on the season, for an example. And this is the case of a guy who you could sell high on, but you probably might not be able to, just for the whole fact that his name is Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is undoubtedly a superstar in the NBA, but he's not a sexy name to get. In 9 category rankings right now, he is the 10th best player. So if I give you the other names in there like Jokic or Wemby or Cat and a couple of other guys we're going to get to over the course of the past week, you're not really going to trade for Kyrie Irving because of the name. Like you want someone sexy like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's the 14th ranked player. But SGA, you invested that 1st round pick on. So trying to get someone like Kyrie, who you could pick up at the back of the 2nd round, mid-second, he's exceeding expectations, but let's be honest, it's not by that much. But the thing is, we don't want to let go of guys who could be disappointing. And SGA, far from disappointing, but currently ranked lower than Kyrie. It's about the name. So if you're trying to get back a 1st round player for Tyler Herro, you're pushing Buckley's, but that's where he's been performing at this year.
Yeah, I guess the thing with Kyrie is basically, as you said, people probably took him at the end of the 2nd. I saw him go midway through the 3rd, and there'll be no one who goes, "Oh wow, I stuffed up. I should have taken him at value. If I would have taken him at the turn of the 2nd, when like at the 21st pick, I'd be stoked with how he's playing at the moment, but nobody feels that way. And you're right, there's a lot of stigma around the guy. You never know when he's going to do something silly. You never know when he's going to get injured. Yeah, there's just too many things with him. Like with other people, at least you're like, well, it's just this one thing, or it's a role, or it's the usage, or it's the new team. But he's just got a few things. But you're right, it's probably name value, even though Kyrie has a name. Of every second person you see in the gym has a Kyrie jersey on, so it's not like nobody knows about him.
And we're talking about guys right now. Let's get back to Tyler Herro. This dude is ranked 8th right now, trailing behind him names like Durant, Irving, SGA, Anthony Edwards, Luka, LaMelo Ball, like Domantas Sabonis and Damian Lillard. We're talking about superstars. The only one I could think there might be obtainable back could be someone like a Damian Lillard, who's a little bit injured, who's been a bit down. And if you could get a Damian Lillard +1, you're kind of laughing at this point in time.
Yeah, if you could get Dame for Tyler Herro, you'd do it. 100%.
Oh, 100% at the time. I love that first pick. Like when I saw that, I was like, this guy's got to be my number one with the bullet. But this is one I think is an interesting conversation. This was one of your number ones with the bullet. He was a first-round player last year, and this year under the undefeated Cleveland Cavaliers, he is ranked 36 on the season and 28 currently. You think Don Mitchell is a sell high in this situation? Talk me through it.
Yeah, he's a sell high, as I said, because the way that he's played the last couple of games, I think that's about peak for him for this season. Few things have happened. Coach Kenny's come in and he's lost 5 minutes. So that's the first big one. We've seen some wild resurgence of Darius Garland, which has been brilliant if you picked him up. Mobley now plays offense, which is nice to see that happen. But you look across his stat line here. So this is compared to last season. In his last 12 games, he's down that 5 minutes. The field goal percentage is freakishly similar. The 3-point percentage is up 5%. So I don't know if that's going to hold. Free throws is getting to the line less, even though he's hitting him at the same mark at 85%. The assists are half of what he had last year, probably because he had to do all that heavy lifting while Darius was out, or when Darius came back and wasn't doing as much as he probably could have because he couldn't breathe and eat for a long time. Rebounds are down 2, points are down 4, but the reason why he's not a buy low and he's a sell high is because he just had that 38-point game. He had 4 steals in that, and they're the things that you thought you were going to get out of him. You thought you were going to get 30 points. You thought that you were going to get 2 steals a game to 3 steals. He got 4 steals here. He had 38 points. I was kind of lucky in my picks because it turned out every guy that I picked didn't play today, so I know what I'm saying is actually the most recent data. So I was hoping that none of this changed too much. But if you're floating around the idea, you don't know whether you should keep him or whether you should trade him off. I think what we've been seeing is what you're going to get from him this season, and because he's had that peak performance, and nothing weird happened. There was no other injury. There was nothing else you could go, oh, well, that only happened because of X, Y, or Z. That happened because he had a wonderful game. But there's just too much competition, and they're winning, and they're not going to change anything.
This is 100% the case. And on the season as well, his free throws are up to almost 6 free throws a game. He's shooting plus 900. It's 955 currently. His field goal percentage is 437. It's a little bit down from last year, but the steals in the past week have been up after they weren't really there. And as you said, his minutes are down. He's playing 32 minutes a game in the last 4 games for Cleveland. This is like the peakish of where he's going to be. So yeah, you could probably sell him with the illusion that he's a first-round player right now, but he just simply hasn't been. So this is where I'm like, when you're saying like sell high, I'm like, geez, that's a really interesting take, because for me, I don't think he's a first-round guy, but you could probably con yourself into the recency bias of him being with it if you didn't know the numbers or that raw data. You could kind of be like, look, man, he's back. He's that guy from last year. And you're like, look at it, like, yeah, he is. And you could probably get it on the name value of Donovan Mitchell as well, being that superstar for Cleveland with their undefeated run. You could probably really make a move on that one. And although I wouldn't be biting at that kind of price, it's a really interesting exercise to see what you could get back for him. And I've got to agree, like, this is probably peakish for him for the year. All those who invested a late first round pick, early second, not that you're going to regret it by any way, shape, or form. Like you said, these huge 40-point outings are what he brings to the party. But I just don't think he's that semi-first round player from last year, Malley.
Because last year he did everything, and this year he doesn't have to, and Kenny doesn't want him to. So he's the same guy. It's just a different scenario.
Now, I've got a really interesting one I want to bring to the party. You didn't know about this one. And it's really ridiculous to think that in the past week he has been a top 20 player, top 15 player. He's the 12th ranked player before like the recent game. He is number 11 on the week. And for the season, he is the 31st ranked player, Michael Porter Jr. And that seems absolutely insane to say. Because at the beginning of the season, people were like, what's up with this guy? He wasn't playing. But in his last run, in his last 3 games, because he's only played 3 games over the course of last week, he is averaging 20 points on 4 threes a game. So the 3-point that wasn't there for the first couple of games for the Nuggets has come rolling back in. And do you remember that first when we were talking? Do you remember in the first couple of games of the season, we asked, are the Nuggets bad? Or, are they bad or are they just getting challenged? Well, they've gone on a bit of a bloody spree since then, haven't they? And they're just absolutely been eating opponents alive. And they're up to 7-3 after looking shocking out of the game, Malley.
Yeah, that is basically Jokic. He's doing everything. He's nearly got 20, 20, and 20 a game, which is like infuriating if you're anyone who's playing against him. That he just has no weakness. He's like a cheat code on the old Nintendo 64. You just can't do much about that if you're going up against it. But yeah, that actually shocked me. To be fair, Michael Porter Jr. is not someone that I followed. But last time I checked in on him, I thought he was having a stinker of a season. So those last 3 games must have been thoroughly impressive to pull him up from where he was. I mean, I know we're only 11, 12, 13 games in, whatever we're up to now.
Yeah.
I've
got this bloke in a couple of teams, mate. I saw him drop into the 90s in a couple of leagues. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to roll the dice and pick him up. And as a proud owner, he has been chugging along. Last week, 21 points a game on 4 threes, 6 rebounds. The 4 assists almost a game has been nice. The 1.3 steals, amazing. The blocks, amazing. On 500 from the field and 875 from the line on almost 3 attempts a game. Like, these are ridiculous numbers. This is all-time peak MPJ. The thing is this, he's currently ranked as a first-round player, but you're not going to get one back. But what could you get? We all know he has a bit of an injury past as well. So this is where maybe if something goes sideline, but if you could get ballpark close to a first-round player, second-round player for MPJ, oh yeah, I'm definitely doing that. Like, you're not going to get an Anthony Edwards type guy back, but he's outperforming guys like this again. So it's based on the name. And like you even said, it's a bit of a head scratcher to think about it, but the dude is rolling. And if you tell your manager, if someone comes knocking on your door for him, you'd be like, yeah, I know why you are. Just know why someone is coming looking for MPJ, and make sure you're like, hey man, look, I know where he's at. Like, you got to be giving me something back here. And you could push that if he really wants it, but that's definitely a trade you want to make.
Aaron, you said 3 games is how long he's been on this spree for, which feels about the same amount of time that Aaron Gordon's been out. So I guess when we're looking at how long have I got, what have I got on the old countdown timer, it's until Aaron comes back, it would seem, unless that's just coincidental.
Look, Jamal Murray, he's a non-factor for these guys right now. Christian Braun has been like the shining light with MPJ that's been really dragging them up the thing. And so, I mean, Christian Braun, I don't know how long he is for this, but Peyton Watson's got an incredible bump for those who ran to the wire for him. So it's almost a sell high, but MPJ at first round on the year is absolutely huge. And another guy, again, like you said, who fills up a hole because of injuries. Now, we know Jalen Suggs has had an impressive year, but your next guy is another one that I want to talk about. It's Franz Wagner. You've brought this guy to the party as an absolute sell-high candidate this week.
Yeah, I think there could have been an argument before Paolo's injury, or before the season started. Let's go back to then. Before the season started, it was probably still up in the air. Who was going to be the guy on this team? Was Paolo going to take over this year? And Franz takes a back seat noticeably, where last year was probably, one game for one game for the other. And then Paolo came out and he was playing like a man possessed. Obviously, this sell high is completely based on the injury of someone higher on the pecking order than him, because it was very clear that Franz was the Robin to his Batman. Suggs, besides today's game where he kind of came back a little bit, he's had 3 quiet games after starting the season in like really awesome fashion. Franz's 3-point percentage is up 6%, and I don't trust anything that this guy does from the 3-point mark. I don't really trust anything he does as far as hitting shots at the line. So yeah, or even getting to the line. When he gets to the line, and he'll hit him, but it's just the fact that he just doesn't seem to get there. The steals are up. Points have basically stayed the same, which is kind of surprising. Like he was 19.7 last year and is at 19.9 this year. So it's that's going to rise. Like today, the last couple of games were pretty impressive on the points front. So I'd say that's going to wriggle up a little bit. But yeah, I don't buy it, and I think that makes him a sell high in my eyes.
I would agree. And I know some people who bought on him at the beginning of the season for Tobias Harris. I know one guy who traded him basically for Tobias Harris and side pieces to get that upside of Franz Wagner. And then he slid back to earth, and then he's had to raise his game. And like you said, I'm just not sure he's stable. Like in the last week, he's been 488 from the field, but we've seen him at 420 for sustained periods of time like last year where he was like, where everyone was scratching their heads and he was a buy low candidate. And then he didn't really redeem a lot of that value that people wanted him to make. We've got Powell coming back. We've got Wendell Carter Jr., although not a massive piece, does like to get the ball a little bit more on the offensive end. So maybe a couple of touches go away from Franz a little bit when WCJ is back from the plantar fasciitis. So this is where like the 6 rebounds, the 6 assists, the 1.5 steals, like you said, it's not sustainable. And right now where his value is at, this is probably the best you're going to be as like an owner for this bloke. And that's really high at 33 right now. I don't think he surpasses top 30 for the rest of the season. So you kind of get him in. If you can get like a top 40 player back that's really valuable for you, you go for it.
Right. Like the usage is there, the roles there, the minutes are there. He seems in good form. It's a bit of a perfect storm as far as any opportunity. If you think that he's going to get much higher than this and you just want to wait a couple more weeks till he moves up another 10 spots, I don't think that's going to happen. So, and then the longer you wait, the closer Powell comes back, that's obviously going to make front page news and people are going to know when that date's coming around, even if they're not Powell owners. So this, the window begins to close.
Mate, I want to bring another one of your guys to the table who we have different opinions on this bloke because I am riding the wave of one Stormin Norman Powell all the way. In the last week, he has been the 20th ranked player over the season. He is the 20th ranked player. I have so much stock in Stormin Norman. It's ridiculous. Now, do I think is the question that he is the 20th best player in fantasy for the year? No. So yes, ideally it might be a sell high, but why is he sell high for you? And whereabouts would you be looking for his return?
You know, a lot of these guys, it's one thing that they're doing, and you're like, okay, like if this comes back down to earth, there goes 15, 20 spots of ranking straight away. But there's just too much here that I don't buy. The thing, ironically, that probably changes his value the most is the thing I have the most doubt in, which is Kyrie returning at any point. That's still going to keep Powell in the starting lineup, I would assume, even though they might want that scoring punch from the bench because he has always been a 6-man type potential kind of guy. So there's that kind of spectre always looming over us going, is it going to be, when's Kawhi going to come back? We never hear anything for the Clippers. He'll just turn up one day, he'll play for 2 weeks, and then he'll be gone again, like a voice on the wind. Other things, and I'm not buying 50% 3-point shooting. He's not going to do that. So if you think that he's going to do that, you wouldn't be trying to sell him high. You'd be just enjoying it and going, well, this is my season with him. He's getting 1.3 steals. That could be because he has to defend now. I mean, he's never really, even on last year's Clippers, that wasn't what he had to do. He just had to come out, shoot, hide on defense. But now he actually has to be a bit of a defensive Well, I mean, he's still down the list as far as defensive guys in this lineup. He's probably still the fifth option, but he's the fifth option starting. So he's averaged 0.8 steals over his last year. So he's certainly not double that, but he's edging very close. So between the usage, between the starting role, between the 50% 3-point percentage, the steals, just it all stinks. And and that, I mean, the hardest thing about selling this guy, unfortunately, is the name, which is cruel because you're right. Even though he's not going to be top 20, he's going to be oodles further along the line than where you picked him up. So that's kind of a thing that you can keep in your mind. Like, you're not going to try and get a Kyrie Irving or someone that's like grossly unattainable. But if, like, I kind of feel like no harm, no foul with this. I know that's probably not the right way to think because you're giving someone else value. But if you can get someone that you were actually trying to get earlier on in the piece and they just weren't there for you, I think this is the time that you sell and make that move.
This is a guy he's been absolutely rolling. And I even went back through his stats, back from his even Toronto days, and where was he before Toronto? I can't remember before he was in the Clippers. Like, this guy has been absolutely on fire lately. And you're right. I don't think that the 3-point percentage stays there. I still think it stays high because I think what Kawhi's ability to do is going to be able to collapse defenses. And that's going to create a lot more looks for Norman Powell because right now he has to take so much. Like, he almost single-handedly, after it was the Harden show for the first half, dragged the Los Angeles Clippers up against the Oklahoma City Thunder yesterday. And that's an impressive defense. So if he's capable of doing that on that kind of defense, that was where I was like, actually, I think there's something to Powell. Do I think it's 28 points a game? No. Do I think it's 22, 24? Yeah, maybe. But that's not, my wife is shaking her head in the background and she's never heard of Norman Powell in her entire life. And she's like, there's no way that's sustainable, hubby. No way. No chance of God's green earth.
Because she also thinks that there's absolutely no chance someone in the NBA is called Norman because that isn't an NBA name.
Honey, do you think it's because there's no one in the NBA who should be called Norman? Do you think it's because his name is Norman that he won't outperform this ADP? He's a what guy? IT guy. He's an IT guy. So the IT guy, Norman Powell.
She's got it in one.
He's got a Norman Powell. Yep. Does sound like an IT
nickname,
guy.
the IT man. the old IT crowd out with Norm Powell. Yeah, I think as well, like, I think, I know this is an unfair comparison, but if you compare him up against someone like Harden, when Harden doesn't shoot well, which at the moment is more often than not, he's going to get assists. He's going to get rebounds. He's going to get steals. He might get a block. He can do other stuff. But if you look at this line here, like, what's he at? 3 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 0.3 of a block, 1.3 steals. It's just like, if he doesn't shoot, it all falls to pieces. And I think, the reason he does so much better than someone who's basically, in my mind, the same player as him is like, in like a
Desi Bane. These are like Desmond Bane numbers. Better than Bane.
Because Desmond Bane gets counters and not a lot of defensive stuff, but he'll get double that rebound and double that assist. And the nights that he doesn't shoot well, he seems to go, okay, I guess I'm distributing and I better like hustle for some rebounds, because he's a guy that even when he's shooting goes, he seems to be able to rescue it in other ways. This is like we just talked about Hardaway Jr. And I think these are the same guys. The thing with Hardaway Jr. is he can only do it once every 4 nights, whereas Norm Powell can do it every night.
Yep, agreed. And a guy who's doing it every night, we've got a couple more guys before we wrap up for tonight. This guy has just been doing it every which way. And it's first round fantasy player, Eggs Benny Mathurin. This bloke is the prime. He is the poster boy for sell high. He is the poster boy for sell high, being the 10th ranked player in the last week, but on the season, the 90. That also, my wife, there's a basketball player in the NBA whose name is Benedict. From Breakfast, yeah. We're calling the Breakfast Boy, Benedict Mathurin. Mate, he's on your list. Why
as we go along? I mean, the long and short of it is he's never been able to keep a starting role. like there's a reason why they don't want him out there. I don't see it because I don't have the analytical mind because, I see points and I see a getter. But there's no Naismith. There's no Naismith, not Naismith. Wrong guy. Less important in basketball, Naismith than Naismith. There's no Nemhard. So there's two guys that they seem to want to start, even though to me it seems like Benedict Mathurin's the clear choice. I don't know why they push these two guys constantly. Maybe they're fantasy owners and they like the fact that Naismith doesn't get a lot of turnovers and they got some big money on the line or some bragging rights to go through, so they've got a little inside track there. But he's great when he's a starter. When he goes to the bench, he just goes completely missing. But yeah, just looking along his stat line here, here's another one. Like last season, in the 59 games that he played in, he was a 37.4% three-point shooter. In 10 games, 5 of which have been starts, he's a 50% three-point shooter. So there automatically goes 6 points off his total that he's getting a night. The rebounds are up by 2. The assists have stayed the same, but obviously assists is pretty hard to come by when you're playing on a team with
he's only averaging 1.7 assists, so it's not like he's doing very much in the ways that he's either.
Yeah, with Halley. So yeah, the steals and blocks, they're not there. So a little bit like Norm Powell, but without the security of knowing that he's going to have the starting lineup. So the sell high might be harder to get, but it's in the same vein. You probably pick this guy up for peanuts. Potentially, you've just picked him up off the wire.
Waiver. He's a wire guy.
If you can just get a nice, solid piece that you know is going to sustain value, even though it's not going to be as flashy, that's who I want on my team. Benedict Mathurin, great pickup, great guy to keep for a week, and then when it falls apart, be ready to get rid of. But if you've got roster holes that you need to fill, I'd be going and looking in the 80s, 90s for a nice, solid. Obviously, I was trying to think of someone like a Michael Porter Jr., but not currently because he's playing too well.
They're about the same rank.
Yeah, someone who can do that would be good. I mean, I don't think you'll be able to get that trade. That'd be a hard trade. I've got a question for you. Would you do it from anyone else on this list? If I was to throw out there, would you try and get rid of Benedict Mathurin for like a Norman Powell or a Franz Wagner or an MPJ? And do you think you could actually secure like a Franz Wagner for a Mathurin? And would you do that? Absolutely not. I don't think anyone would. But I think if there was a way to get this deal over the line, maybe it's not a sell high so much. Maybe it's a trade high, where it's just a piece that goes in somewhere and someone goes, oh, yeah, I could actually go with 20 points a night extra. That would really solidify that points category for me. Okay, I'll do it. And then even though you're taking that loss, if you line the statistics up and you go, geez, I've now just dropped 20 points per night. When you look at it in a balanced view, you're going to realize that you've probably taken the W there. So I just wouldn't be waiting to find out whether this guy's going to end up staying in the starting lineup or whether they're going to shuffle him back to where he once came. I'd just be selling now and taking anything I can really get because I think this wave is going to be short-lived.
Well, I don't know if this is short-lived or not, but the guy last year finished outside the top 100. You and I both know he is one of my favorite hustle players in the NBA. And in the past week, he is the 25th best player. His name is Josh Hart from the New York Knickerbockers. On the season, he is ranked 32. Let me read you his stat line from last season.
I'm laughing because he looks like Bishnu in that picture. Where are all these arms coming from? I'm not selling behind a guy who's got 4 arms. Look at all those arms.
That's obviously. I think this is Tobias Harris from last year with that afro in the background and that red jersey. It's. I don't think it's Josh Hart, but it is Bishnu.
It's one of your sneaky tricks.
It's one of my sneaky AI generated photos. Look, he finished last year as the 136th best player after signing that contract, playing in 81 games and on 33 minutes a night because we're talking Thibodeau minutes. So if I look at that one last year, 33 minutes a night, yeah, he's up to 38 minutes a night, 37.8. Obviously, a little bit more required of him with the departure of Dante DiVincenzo. So I picked him up at a couple leagues early and I'm happily riding him out. But last year, his field goal percentage overall, he was down. It was 434. His free throw percentage, 789, 1 3 a game, 9 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists. And we all know that that's what he can do. In the last week, in the 4 games they played, he's at 14 points a game, 9.8 rebounds. It's still only a 1 3-pointer a game. So he's getting only 1 3, but all the rest are hustle plays, offensive rebounds, putbacks. He is almost up to 8 assists a game. And if Mikal Bridges could ever learn to get that hitch out of his shot, it could probably be averaging close to a triple-double out of this bloke. Not even quite 1 steal or 1 block over the last 4 games. But what's really standing out for me for this one is his free throw percentage has gone up to 800, which is huge for the guy who was under 800 last year. It's actually at 435 right now. But the biggest glaring one is the 675 from the field. And because he's moving away and he's taking less threes, he's getting more work done inside the paint with a couple of threes dripped in because they're spreading the floor through OG, through Mikal, through Brunson, who's a great buy low candidate, by the way, for the show tomorrow night. This guy is solid as rocks. And if you look at him today in the starting lineup, triple-double, 14, 12, and 10, and 6 from 8 from the field, 1 from 3 from deep, and he was huge. Whereas Brunson, 5 from 15. Cat's still chugging along. OG Anunoby, who I just traded in 1 league, I thought this is a sell high time, by the way, on OG. So you could probably say this is about peak, because if Bridges comes along and Brunson steps up, I think OG takes a little bit more of a back seat. But, mate, for me, Josh Hart is a prime sell high candidate. I just don't know what you can get for the bloke.
And it's wild because those preseason games, he did absolutely nothing. He was like anyone who took a gamble on him, they did so at a late point in the draft. And they also did so going, well, if a few guys go down, we know from this past season exactly what he can do. And then he's come out here and he's just been like, jokes on all of y'all. I was going to do this all along. And he is at this stage the most consistent guy on the team. Like, you know what you're going to get. And I honestly think that I think the most damaging piece of their starting lineup, I know we're veering a little bit off fantasy basketball here, but if he went down out of their starting 5, I think it would do the most damage to their win-loss record. I think anyone else they could try and make up. I think if OG or Miles goes down, not Miles, Mikal goes down, the other one of those two will just plug it. Obviously, they're doing things while Brunson's out of form. Cat obviously is playing really nicely as well, but they'd miss him as just a big piece on the floor. But yeah, I mean, I think there's 3 guys that if you pick them up late, you're so happy with. He's one. The other one's Dyson Daniels, and the third one's Bilal Coulibaly. If you had either of those 3, I agree. He is a sell high because I don't know if he can continue to do this, and it only takes the stars to align and the others to go, oh, wait, we forgot who we are for a second. Sorry, can you just go back to doing the dirty work and nothing more? Then, he might fall off a little bit, but he's the kind of guy, just like Dyson Daniels, like, I know that it could all fall apart tomorrow and he could go back to just being a 1-steal guy, 10, 3, 2, and 1, but I'm happy to take that gamble.
Oh, mate, if he can continue to produce at this elite level with this efficiency, he is an absolute league changer. And if you picked up him and Dyson Daniels as those specialists that you're bringing in late in your drafts, like round 10, 11, you are absolutely laughing. And you'd be laughing. Actually, you'd not be laughing. You'd just be silly not to like and subscribe. Hit the bell down below. The little bing. I'm not even going to put a thing, but there's a word subscribe between Malley and I. And you want to do that for everything that's Insight. You want to follow him at live_my_fantasy, me at MBAGWiz, and of course us at Insight FS. We've got almost daily NBA content. We've also contact. I'm thinking like books, the stuff you put on books, content. Shows where teachers contact just lives inside the brain at a point. And we've got BBL coming up. NBL is rolling out and a whole lot more. Malley, we'll catch you very, very soon. And the Sell High show is in the books and buy low coming tomorrow. Catch you soon, everyone.